们将在6:30播放纪录片《大国崛起之激情岁月——法国》，于7:20结束。The documentary The Rise of Great Nation France will be played at 6:30 and will be finished around 7:20. 之后有10分钟的休息时间，再来就是讲者的演讲与交流。After that, you will have a 10-minute break, and then we will move to the speech of Mr. Zhan. 整场活动预计9:30结束。The salon will be ended at 9:30. 今天晚上，成大思沙龙很荣幸邀请到这次的讲者詹文硕詹先生。Tonight, the Thinker Salon is honored to have the speaker, Mr. 詹文硕 with us. 詹先生毕业于巴黎战争经济学院，主修经济情资，目前是文饗文创事業有限公司的董事長。Mr. Zhang graduated from School of Economy Warfare in Paris, and his postmaster research in economy intelligence and strategy. He is now the chairman of Prometheus Publishing Company Limited. 詹先生旅居法国长达16年，期间体验法国独有的社会文化现象，并深入观察，对于法国左右派文化的冲突及政经领域影响都有精辟独到的见解。Mr. Zhang lived in France for 16 years. During his staying, he experienced the unique culture of France and observed the social phenomena precisely, so that Mr. Zhang has a unique point of view in the field of economy, politics, and cultural aspects. And he is also familiar with the long-time conflict between the left wing and the right wing of France. 因此，詹先生的学术背景相当坚强，并且以经济情资著名。Therefore, Mr. Zhang has not only strong educational background, but is distinguished for his knowledge of economics and strategy. 今晚，詹先生将以法国左派与右派的冲突以及其政治与社会制度的影响为主题，一步步地带领我们拨开法国文化的层层迷雾。Tonight, Mr. Zhang will talk about the conflict between the left and the right of France and the effect on French politics and social system. Take us to explore French culture step by step. 相信今天一定能带给我们一场精彩的演讲。I do believe that Mr. Zhang will make a splendid speech for us tonight. 现在，让我们掌声欢迎詹文硕詹先生。Now let's welcome our speaker, Mr. Zhang.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Christopher Chen. First of all, I want to say that I'm honored to be invited tonight to share with you some of my thinking, my thoughts. And I'm also honored to be invited for the first English version of the NCKU. I hope that there's no French student in this room, because if a French person was listening to me speaking about France in English, I think he would kill me. Tonight's salon's topic is the France, a country you didn't know. I think that only by listening to me tonight, you can already say that you achieved something, because you are discovering French accent, English. So left-right politics in France. will be my topic tonight. But before we get to the topic in itself, let me introduce myself to you. So my name is Christopher Chen. In Chinese, it's詹文硕. I have a long story with France. I can say that it's my second country because I'm 29 and I spent 16 years in France. So in fact, I lived more in France than in Taiwan. But I am Taiwanese. So why? Why did I spend so much time in France? At the beginning, it was because of my father's study in France. He went there to study medicine, to be a doctor. So I was only 5 when I first came to contact with French culture. And so by being there for 5 years, from 5 to 10, I learned the language. I remember that at the beginning, the first 3 months, I wasn't able to say any words in French. But one day, in the kindergarten, I was only 5, the teacher heard me say one word, bonjour, bonjour, madame. And it was the first word in French I ever said. So then after these 5 years in France, I came back to Taiwan and studied Chinese, learned how to write Chinese character. And then when I was 15, so after junior high school, my brother and I, my younger brother and I, we decided in a family meeting that we wanted to go back to France to do our studies. That is to say, senior high school and then college, etc. So consequently, I spent 16 years in France, and sometimes, you know, when I was in France, I was I was always considered a Taiwanese Asian person, but when I came back to Taiwan, I was often called the French. Yeah. So I have 2 countries. So now after returning back to Taiwan, I was doing my military service, and so I have some free time to think about what to do in the future. And I decided that one of my big passions in life was books, and that I wanted to share the culture I enjoyed in France back here in Taiwan to Taiwanese. So after my military service, I created a publishing company, Prometheus Publishing Company. And now the cover you see on the screen is my first book, which is going to be published in 1 week or 2. So it's a biography. And also, it's my first time in NCKU here to do this speech. So now let's get to the topic itself. So a summary, brief summary. First of all, introduction. Why should we bother left-right politics? Because here in Taiwan, we also have our very strong dichotomy in politics. We have green and blue. So maybe you have noticed my PowerPoint is in blue and green, but just to stay balanced. And then I will talk about how did it get started. I mean, this division between left and right. What are what the differences are? Speaking about left-wing and right-wing differences in economics, in politics, and finally in social fields. Then I will give some examples and talk about a real case case of the sans-papiers, and then a conclusion about 200 plus years of democratic dialogue. So, introduction. Left, right, why bother? I think in doing this presentation, I was thinking about the relationship between France and Taiwan. What's the connection? Why talk about French politics in Taiwan? And finally, I came up with something. I think it was related to the movie we just saw. It's about French Revolution and the learning, deepening of the democratic process in Taiwan. I think that's the link, because today in Taiwan, in fact, we have already developed our economy. We have a good level of material life, but what's missing between Taiwan and real advanced country? I think it's the difference. The thing missing is the learning about the democratic process, and this is really something difficult for a country, because we just saw that in France it took 200 and even more, 200 years to achieve real democratic system, and in Taiwan we just doesn't have those 200 years. We just have, from 1980s to now, we have maybe 20 or 30 years of learning the democratic system. So at this moment of our country's learning, we have to have some model to help us think about political ideas, because political field is mainly about ideas, and in this field there are so many ideas that without a model sometimes it's really hard to understand anything. So left, right is first way of classification, model of the political spectrum. With this left-right model, we can, place every kind of ideas, different political movements into a political spectrum, and it helps us, even though it's a simplification, something maybe it's not the reality, but it's similar to the reality. It helps us understand and then analyzes all the political ideas. So we can see an example of this political spectrum if we just consider two differences, left, right, and then three fields, political, social, and economic. We can have 8 combinations, left, 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 in all the 3 domains, and the other side is right, 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 right wing in the 3 domains. And in between we have 6 other combinations. So it is a way of classification, and we can try to simplify all the political ideas existing in the world, which are infinite. This model is also commonly accepted in the world since the French Revolution in European countries, and even in the United States. Sometimes we talk about left-wing, right-wing politics. But there are also critics. For example, the third way, which clearly means a third way between right and left. So then, how did it get started? The first time in history that people started to talk about left, right, left wing, left, right wing was during French Revolution. So everybody has seen the movie. So after the French Revolution, at the beginning, the French regime was transformed from a monarchy to a constitutional monarchy. So what is that? Constitutional monarchy means there was still a king, Louis XVI. The king was still the head of state. But there was also a legislative assembly passing laws, controlling what the executive was doing. The executive meaning the king and his minister. So in this legislative assembly, there was two different main support, two sides. The right side was supporting the ancien régime, the old order, the king, the aristocracy, etc. And the left part was supporting the revolution and new ideas. So if you look at the pictures here, if I'm the president of the assembly, the people on my right, they were called right wings, and the people on my left, they were called left wing. But before continuing, I must say that the notion of left wing, right wing is not the same as the notion of a party or a topic. We have different political parties which were in left wings at the beginning, and through the time, the evolution of time, they became right-wing parties. And we have also the other. We have right-wing parties becoming left-wing party. And also, the difference between left and right wing is not a difference between topics. For example, colonization was a hot topic in the 19th century. At the beginning, it was a left-wing topic because the left wing thought that colonization was to bring Western wisdom, knowledge, etc. to colonized countries. And then colonization finally became, in the 20th century, right-wing topic. So left-wing, right-wing is not a topic. It's not always the same topic. What are the differences, the fundamental values which are different between left and right? One can say that the fundamental values of the French Revolution was equality, freedom, liberty, and fraternity. Some people say that the difference between right and left is coming from these three fundamental values. For them, left-wing parties will value equality most, and then freedom. And for right-wing parties, freedom will be valued more than equality. And finally, fraternity is the links between left and right, maybe. Then we will see the differences in political positions, in economic fields, and in social matters. But in general, in political positions, left wing will value more progress, reform, and the idea of justice over the value that are represented by the right, the order, the actual order, and the maintenance of efficiency. In economic fields, the left wing will value government intervention to preserve justice, to do reform, whereas the right wing will value free trade, freedom to get richer, freedom to do business as businesses wanted. And finally, in social matters, the fundamental difference is between progressivism and conservatism. That is to say, for left and right wings, there are two. The model, the ideal society is placed on different places. For right wing, the right wing, the idealistic society is placed on the current system or in the past. They think that the idealistic society is already here or was already there and must be preserved, so conserved. Whereas for left-wing ideologists, the model is in the future. It's through reform, through progress, through achievement, social achievement, that the country will make progress and achieve an idealistic society. So these are the fundamental differences. Some examples. So we can see that through the time there was several different topics. For example, in 1791, the difference between left wing and right wing was between the choice of monarchy and republic. During the 19th and 20th century, the opposition became between anarchist, communism, socialism versus capitalism, nationalism, and fascism. Now, maybe a question for everybody. What will be the opposition, the difference, the topic, the hot topic between left and right in the 21st century? So that's a question mark, and we should discover or even influence and have our own topic in our century. Here are some possible examples. So maybe in the 21st century, the left-right confrontation will be between capitalism and terrorism. Or it can be globalism vs nationalism. Even some people even talk about outer globalism versus globalism. So one can see something very interesting here. That is globalism may be left wing, and it can also be right wing, depending on the opposition. Here is a case in French news about the case of the sans-papier. Sans-papier meaning, sans-papier meaning without legal papers. So without, they are illegal migrants. So left and right people will have different position on this issue. Maybe someone can think that the law is the law. So if those sans-papiers are illegal migrants, then law should sanction them and put them to jail or send them back to their countries. That is one position. But other people think that these illegal migrants, they are victims of the society, of the system. They are not illegal migrants because they want to, but because they were victims in their own society, etc. So in this case, the position is very different and the action too. In this case, it's a duty to help them to correct the unjust regime, the unjust system, and duty to help them become legal. So sometimes, to simplify, you will say that you have a choice between to value individual rights or to respect very strictly the legal system. That's a kind of a dilemma. But is reconciliation possible? When thinking about this problem, I was searching for some ideas, and I found a French philosopher, Auguste Comte. He was a French philosopher in the 19th century, and one of the founders of sociology, the science, sociology. At the beginning, he named sociology physics of society. And he used all the scientific method to analyze, to study social phenomena. So he has a static method and also a dynamic view of the society. And finally, he came upon a conclusion that was to value equally order and progress. The important word here is "and", because we cannot value one over the other. Order without progress is reactionary, and progress without order is chaos. So we can see that maybe some people here will recognize the Brazilian national flag. Why did I put this national flag here? Because of this phrase, this sentence on the flag. It's written "Orden e Progreso." Excuse me for the pronunciation, I cannot speak Spanish, but it's the idea of order and progress must coexist together and not be valued over the other. And what Auguste Comte really said was something really idealistic and maybe even poetic. He said, "Love as principle and order as the basis, progress as the goal." So he was indeed a very idealistic man, but I think it's a good goal, a good idea to pursue. He was not only idealistic in his thinking, in his philosophy, he was also romantic, idealistic in his life. I remember that when I was searching information about him, I saw a little story saying that he met a prostitute in France, in Paris, I think, and he wanted to save this prostitute that he loved by teaching her mathematics. So he really spent time to teach mathematics to this prostitute and help her and try to be with her. But finally they separated. Sad story. So my short conclusion, because I wanted to reserve more time for Q&A and for this salon. Salon is in fact a French word meaning the exchange of ideas in a common place. So my short conclusion is the division between left wing and right wing. Finally, even though sometimes it is a very hard fight in political arena. It's a hard fight between different parties for the power for the government. But it's also 200 plus years of democratic dialogue. What is the democratic dialogue? That is really something we should learn about in Taiwan. Because left and right really have different positions, even though these positions are sometimes they are simplified in order to be used for some political, by some politicians for election, etc. But there is also really a real democratic dialogue between left and right. And this dialogue, I think, is what made France progress step by step in its learning its own process of democracy. So what is a dialogue? A dialogue is an exchange of opinion, of ideas between two logos, two beings which have reason, logic, and so it's an exchange and between two different beings. Here we have to talk about the notion of alter ego. That is to say, the other me. So I dialogue with someone who is not me, but who resembles me, who is very similar to me, because we know that he has logos and I also have logo. So we are different, but we can exchange. I recognize you and you recognize me. That's really something I think that is sometimes missing in Taiwanese politics. And while thinking about this idea of dialogue, I finally came up with this idea of diversity. I think it even can sum up the three ideals of the French Revolution. Why? Let us remember what are the three ideals. So equality, liberty, freedom, and fraternity. Why do I say that diversity is the combination of these three values? Because diversity is the freedom to choose, the freedom of a lot of choices. You have to have this freedom to choose different way, different things, to become a diverse society. Diversity is also equality. because an equal society has to assure that once the different choices are made, there is an equal chance, opportunity for people doing different things in different ways to succeed as well. So diversity is kind of equality. And finally, diversity is also fraternity, because what is fraternity? Fraternity is when very different beings, different people, different opinions can coexist, can live together peacefully in the same society. So that's why I said diversity is a good thing. And now, is Taiwan a diverse society? What about Taiwan? What about left, right-wing dialogue in Taiwanese society or in Taiwanese political field? That's what I think we may think about together, and I will use the Q&A session to answer all your questions about this topic or even other questions you may have about France, society, etc. So thanks for your attention, and it was really an honor. Thank you.
让我们先感谢詹老师系统性的带着我们从法国左右派的产生，一直到法国左右派在政治、经济、文化、社会等等层面带来的冲突与影响，最后提出两派之间是否有和解与共生的可能等等。We really appreciate Mr. Zhang's systematical speech. Now we understand the origin of the left and the right in France, then their effects in different fields such as politics, culture, and economy. Finally, Mr. Zhang also mentioned whether the two are possible to compromise with each other. 经过山老师深入浅出的演讲后，相信各位朋友也对法国左右派的文化与左右派影响整体法国社会的现象有一定的了解。After clear speaking by Mr. Zhang, everyone must have some understanding on the culture of the left and the right of France and the relationship between the French society. 如同詹老师所言，法国左右两派民主对话200余年。沙龙一词本源于17世纪的法国，本着沙龙以批判与反思的精神理念，相信沉思的各位朋友也有许多相关的问题想提出来与老师一起讨论。As Mr. Zhang said, dialogue between the left and right of France has been maintained for nearly 200 years. The word salon was originated from the France on 16th century. The spirit of the salon is for critical thinking and max self-examination. Therefore, everyone must have some question to discuss with Mr. Zhang. 与此同时，我们现场也来了几位重量级的贵宾：汤哲明汤教务长与诺贝尔物理奖得主格罗狗翁董女士教授。At the same time,还有董女士教授的夫人。现在我们很荣幸的请教务长上来为我们说几句话，谢谢。
各位好，我是教务长。So this is really my honor to have Professor Cohen Tanosi to be our distinguished guest, and also his wife, Jacqueline. And maybe you're not familiar with Professor Cohen Tanouchi. He is the recipient of Nobel Award in 1997 in physics, co-shared with the Nobel Prize with Professor Stephen Chu, Zhu Liwen, and another distinguished scientist. And we really have the privilege to invite Professor Cohen Tanouchi to visit NCKU. And this time he came here for 6 days. And last Saturday, he already gave a general talk on the quantum mechanics in our daily life. And as Professor Li Yuanze told me, Professor Cohen Tanouchi is a man of science as well as humanities. So he is very interested in tonight's talk, and maybe Professor Cohen Tanouchi, can you want to say something?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Perhaps a few comments about it. You know, the situation is changing really rapidly in France for several reasons. In fact, now when you look at the left and right policies, in most problems, like economic problems, like even educational problems, when they are at the power, depending you have a socialist or right government, the policy in economy are nearly the same. You know, it's very difficult to change dramatically the policies. There are a few differences perhaps about the tax policy. The right makes decrease the tax, and the left perhaps increase the tax a little more, and also for immigration. For immigration, of course, the right are more severe than the left. The left perhaps a little too easy to enter France. The right is much more severe. But you know, we have a new fact which explains the evolution, in my opinion, of the politics. The first, of course, is the economic crisis. So we have every country now in the world has to face a very important issue. And also, perhaps in France, something very important happened during the last 50 years. It's the unification of Europe. Now, Europe is unified by a single money, the euro, and that has changed quite a lot in the mentality and in the economy. You know, during centuries there have been wars between France and Germany. Now, complete friendship, a lot of exchange, and you know, the feeling of having been enemies for years and years. Also, on the economic point of view, the change also the situation, because you have an open market within Europe, and for example, for the agriculture, it's something difficult in France, because France has a strong agriculture, and it needs support, and that's not easily accepted by the other European countries. Also, I think we are obliged now in France to follow certain European rules, and we cannot do what we want. So we are a little more strict about the rules of the economy. Now, of course, what I would see now in the evolution also, you know something, you mentioned conservatism. You know, in fact, the French society is very conservative. Every time a government tries to make a reform, whatever it is right or left, it's immediately blocked by the population, which wants to keep its advantage, and which does not want to make any reform. You have immediately demonstration. Last week there was a demonstration in Paris, and our flight was 1 hour late because of a strike of the air controllers. So it's really difficult to have any reform. For example, in the university system, introducing a selection at the entrance of the university produce a revolution immediately. Every government will have this idea, is obliged to come back immediately, because otherwise they will have a revolution with the street. I think also that this conservatism can be explained by a fear. Because of the economic crisis, people are afraid to lose their job, to become poor, to become homeless, and they are afraid, and they want that nothing change. So that explains probably also this behavior. For example, the present president, Nicolas Sarkozy, started this mandate with a lot of reforms, and now he's obliged to come back on every one of them. So it's very difficult to make reforms, but because of this anxiety for the future, which is easy to understand, of course. Also, there is a final remark which I would like to make, is that in Europe we are facing a big problem. In Europe, is the fact that Europe, of course, is the wealth part of the world, developed. We have very good conditions of living, even if there is a crisis. We have food, enough energy, and just on the other side of the Mediterranean, we have Africa, and the gap, the technological gap, the educational gap between Europe and Africa is increasing. And that, I think, in my opinion, for the future, is the most serious problem. If we don't correct this gap, if we don't help the developing countries to improve their conditions of living, their economy, their educational system, then we are going to a catastrophe. Because the pressure of immigration will be stronger and stronger, because these people are starving. They don't hesitate to take small boats and to cross the sea, and most of them die. And if this increases, that would be a serious problem. So the problem of immigration, behind this problem, there is a problem of a very more general problem in the world, which is a gap which increases between the developing country and the developed country. And I think that's the thing we must have in mind. The developing country must try to perhaps to reduce a little bit their standard of living to help the developing countries and to avoid this conflict of two existing systems, and to avoid also the development of fanatism and terrorism, which of course is favored by this difference of situation. So I think it is our duty, especially as teachers, as researchers, as university people, to try to help the developing country to develop and to expand. But that's a great job, a very great job. We were with my wife visiting 2 months ago one African country, Burkina Faso, and we came back a little depressed because the situation is very poor, and also the birth control is not existing. Several people have 4 wives and 22 children, and the population doubles every 10 years. So that if this continues in the same speed, that will be a collapse, obviously. So that's a big problem. So I think that explains a lot of the policies we are trying to be established in Europe in general. And I think in Taiwan we must have also the same problem, because we are a really developed country, and you have also a lot of countries around which are also in difficult shape, and you have to be careful about that.
Thank you, Professor Tanoji. 现在开始是交流提问时间，想提问的朋友们，请您举手后，经由老师点名，我们的工作人员会协助递交麦克风。Now we move to the time for Q&A. If you have some ideas or questions to share with everyone, please raise your hand and our staff will pass you the microphone. Thank you.
I have 2 questions. Okay, I have two. I'm a PhD student from physics department. Yeah. So I have two questions. Two questions about Taiwan, because I care about Taiwan more. You say, but yeah, something related. You say the difference between Taiwan and real developed countries is the learning democracy. So I want to ask, what is most necessary in Taiwan for democracy improvement? This is the first one. Then what is the most necessary things we need to improve our democracy politics in Taiwan? Yeah. Then the second one is, in your opinion, is there left-right politics in Taiwan, or we just have blue-green politics in Taiwan? Okay, thank you very much.
The first question was about what is necessary to improve Taiwanese democracy, what is needed. And the second one, I think, is more specific to Taiwanese political situation. So it was whether the division, the confrontation was left-right in Taiwan, or was it green or blue? We have green camp, blue camp. So maybe I will answer the second question and you can answer the first one.
Of course, I think to me that it's obvious, it's important to develop the country, to develop the economy, to develop the education system. That's always good. That can serve as a model for other countries which are nearby. I think it's not good to try to stop the development of economic progress and educational progress. That's very important. That's an ideal which should be kept in mind by any political party. That's for me obvious, because if you have a country which develops very well in harmony, that can serve as a model for others, for trying to imitate and to follow an example. So that for me is obvious. Now, of course, you raised in your second question, you raised a very important issue, the problem of the grid. You know, before you answer that, in the Taiwanese point of view, I would say that in France also, in Europe, it's a big problem. Because we have some conflict between, for example, not in France, but in Germany, for people who want to develop nuclear energy, which is, in my opinion, at least for the next decade, for the next 2 decades, the only way to solve the energy problem, because we need a lot of energy, and the other sources of energy are not yet reached the level which can fulfill our needs. So we need energy, and nuclear energy is an energy which does not produce CO2, and which of course, it produces waste. Of course, that's a very serious problem, but that can be at least partially solved by research. Research can be done to help to solve this problem. And so that is very important. But you know, there are some parties, the Green Party, are against any kind of initiative of this type. They are against nuclear energy. And they are against, for example, what's the name, transgenic plants. You know, they are against any things which change any initiative. If you take the same attitude, if you have taken the same attitude 1 century ago, we would not have planes, we would not have trains, because they are dangerous, the speed is dangerous, you know, they are against any change of the human condition. We have in France what we call the principle of caution, principe de précaution. I don't know how to translate this in English. You have to be, when you have any risk of danger, you have to stop an initiative. So that's very bad, because you know there is no zero risk activity for mankind. You have always risk, and you have to balance the risk and the advantage. So stopping any progress because of possibility of a risk, it's a very difficult problem. And in certain countries, not in France, but in Germany, in the northern country like Sweden, they stop very severely any attempts of this kind. that does not prevent them, German people, to import from France the electricity which is produced by nuclear. They accept to get this energy, but they don't want to have nuclear plants.
I think everybody loves colors in politics because it's easy to identify. You know, left, right. In France, I think left is rose, and right is blue. And in Taiwan, we have two sides: a green camp, green side, and a blue side. For me, I will answer the two questions together because I think the most important thing to improve our democracy is to install the right dialogue. And for the moment, I think we don't have the right dialogue. We have a dialogue between green and not really a dialogue between green and blue. And what's the difference between the two sides? Well, it's my opinion. Green wants independence, and blue wants unification with China. And those two goals are not mutually, possible. You cannot choose one and the other at the same time. So the dialogue is not really possible because either you choose one, either you choose another. So in this case, the dialogue is not really possible. But in France or in other countries, the question about the country itself is mostly generally solved. We don't care if it is left or right. They all recognize France exists and they want to do the correct politics for this country. They want to improve France. They want to make the good policy for this country. Whereas in the case of green and blue camp in Taiwan, if you choose to do a unification with China, then there is no more Taiwan. So there is no more question. Then that the country is no more here. And if you choose the other side, then if both people agree on continuing the experience of Taiwan as a republic, as a democracy, then we can choose different means, different way to improve our democracy. So I think the most important thing and the right dialogue is to get over this issue of unification or independence, and then we can all have different opinions on whether left is good or right is good, which policy is good or which one is not. But we have to solve this false dialogue first, and then install a real dialogue, political dialogue. Thank you.
Can I speak in Chinese? Okay, so would you
In
please?
Chinese, and then I will translate.
Okay, thank you. So, 我的问题就是，像詹老师一开始讲的，在法国有左派跟右派，然后台湾也有蓝绿之分。可是，就是台湾的蓝绿斗争是看起来是很激烈的，但是在我的感觉上来看，台湾的新一代的年轻人似乎对政治就没有那么浓厚的兴趣，甚至会觉得有点厌烦。然后我认识的法国主要都是从电影里面看到，都是很浪漫、很慵懒的那种气息，很少来谈论政治。所以我不知道说法国的年轻人现在对于他们国家的政治左派、右派有什么观感？他们是不是还会对政治有很浓厚的兴趣？然后会不会存在一种很普遍的讨论在生活当中？对。
la question, c'est cette demoiselle, sa connaissance de la France provient principalement des films ou des livres qui montrent souvent une phase très romantique de la France. Et ce qu'elle souhaite savoir, c'est est-ce que les jeunes Français sont réellement encore intéressés par ce débat gauche-droite, par la politique en général? Est-ce qu'ils discutent entre eux de la politique ou est-ce que c'est un débat qui les ennuie quelque part et qui ne les intéresse pas? As you wish.
I can answer in English. I think, okay, because if you, I can also speak in French, perhaps. Bon, je pense que la dernière élection présidentielle a marqué un net regain d'intérêt pour la politique. Le nombre d'abstentions à l'élection a considérablement décru pour cette élection. Ça a été un élément surprenant. C'est vrai que les jeunes s'intéressaient peu à la politique. Pour cette dernière élection, la campagne a été peut-être intéressante. Il y avait des enjeux importants et il y a eu un vote beaucoup plus important de l'ensemble de la population, y compris des jeunes.
OK， 中文吗？中文对。OK， 就是郭燕教授他刚才说的是，就是确实在之前的几次选举，投票率有减低，但是最后这一次就是总统选举的过程当中，也许是两党两派之间的议题选得非常精确，或者说是因为这一次的选择有他的议题真的有他的大家很关注的地方，所以这一次的投票率其实是非常高的，就代表说法国的年轻一代又开始热衷政治，然后讨论政治了。那我另外可以补充的是说，我在那边念书的时候，我念高中，然后大学1年级、2年级的时候，我每天吃饭的时候，我有一个同学是左派的，然后一个同学是右派的，然后我们的午餐都非常的精彩，因为就是辩论的非常厉害。然后呢，尤其其实我是蛮同情我们那位右派的同学，因为年轻人要当右派真的要很有勇气，因为你会被冠上一些你真的是很没有爱心啊，你是资本家，你家里一定很有钱，然后怎么样等等的标签，但是对，其实不一定是那样。那我觉得他们的年轻人是真的有在辩论，然后很关心这个议题。对，谢谢。
Je pourrais ajouter que j'ai été un peu déçu ici, en regardant la télévision, de voir qu'il n'y avait aucun canal de langue française. Dans beaucoup de pays, il y a TV5, la chaîne française. Ici, à Taïwan, je n'ai pas trouvé TV5, il n'y a aucune chaîne d'expression française. Je pense aussi je ne sais pas quelle est l'activité de l'ambassade. Est-ce qu'il y a une alliance française à Taïwan? Est-ce qu'elle diffuse des films évidemment sous-titrés, des films français? Est-ce qu'elle diffuse des ouvrages de littérature française? Je ne sais pas répondre à la question.
Donc pour répondre à la question, I can reassure you that there is TV5 in Taiwan. Yeah, there is TV5, a French TV channel in Taiwan, but I think it's broadcast on MOD, movie on demand. Yeah, so yeah, you have to subscribe a certain and then you have TV5. So and also I think, if I'm not wrong, French is the third most studied language in Taiwan. Yeah, after English, of course, and then Japanese, and then it's French. Yeah. So yeah, and the embassy, the French embassy here is I think it's doing quite a good job, you know. They are promoting French books. Every year there is an event called The Joy of Reading in French. Yeah, and even though this event was stopped in Asia, I contacted the embassy in Taiwan, and they said that it was going to be continued in Taiwan only this year. Yeah, so.
I'm also physics student of physics department, and I just wondering that because kind of French is very famous as their as strike, right? So I just wondering because right now the world economics is kind of bad. So do you guys still support the strikes in French, or right now you are not so frequently have strike? And another question is because I read some pre-reading material, and they said you have French communist party, and I just wondering if the French communists are still very active in French, or right now they are just kind of not moving anymore. Yeah, thank you very much.
I understood the second question, so I can answer first. I think the French Communist Party is completely disappearing. It has reduced a very small number of votes, and now, you know, what? But there is a new party, a Trotskyist revolutionary party, which is called, I don't remember the name, Against Capitalism, which is high, about 9% in the polls, and which is frightening for the Socialist Party, because this will take a lot of votes from the left, and if the situation does not change, the Socialist Party has no chance to win the next election, because a lot of votes will be going to this extreme left party, and they will not, in the second round, they will not go back to the Socialist Party. So the situation at left has changed a lot. The Communist Party has nearly disappeared. And now you have some extremist new parties which can be explained by the economic crisis, by the fact that people are anxious about their future and they go to this extremist party.
Yeah, but how about the fourth international in French branch?
How long?
The fourth international.
The holding international? What for? It's the Trotskyists, yes, you're sure. The extreme left is are singing the song of l'Internationale, and they are going to international Communist Party. But you know, in Europe, all the Communist Party are nearly disappeared. In Italy, it was very strong. It was one of the most important parties of Italy. No, it even changed name. No longer Communist Party, name Communist disappeared completely. And in France, I think 3%, 4%, 3%, very small amount. And you mentioned recently fascism. I think it's not fair to see that right is for fascism. You know, fascism is a party of extreme right. You know, probably Le Pen is very, very extreme. But one surprise of the last election is that Sarkozy, the present president, made a policy in such a way that it reduced completely the number of votes of this party, extreme right. In the same way as Mitterrand, the socialist president, 20 years ago, by its policy, reduced the Communist Party. So it's amusing to see that the main left party and the main right party have succeeded, each of them, to reduce the extreme, the left side and the right side. Except that now we have an extreme left going up. I hope that the same thing will not appear at right. They will not have an extreme right party going on. But I don't think so. And we have also in France another problem, which is the problem of immigration. We have a large number of Islamic population coming from Africa, about 5 or 6 million, which is 1/10 of the total population. Most of them are quiet, but you have some extremists, some Islamists within this population, and that's a little difficult situation, especially in the area outside the great cities. And that a series of problems which are not clear, how to solve them.
The first question was about strikes. Well, from my experience, there is really a lot of strikes in France, and but it's almost considered, it's a right for the worker to go on strikes if you have revendication, you have something you are unsatisfied with. It's something which even users can understand, and sometimes they will argue, they will complain about it, but they understand somewhere that the people on strikes, they have a reason to do that, and they sometimes they even sympathize with the people on strikes. But the strikes I encountered was strikes of the equivalent of the subway, subway, strikes of trains, strikes of airways, plane, My father once spent 30 hours in a different airport because of strikes. Teachers too. A lot. And but students are maybe happy.
It's really national sport.
National sport, like baseball.
It's terrible sometimes. It's not always popular. In the train, in the station, there are some people very angry against strikers, because when you spend every day, you lose 10 hours waiting with your train, it's terrible. And to give you an example, in summertime, you change the schedule of the train. And in winter time, you change the schedule because they are not the same schedule. Every time you have a strike, because they don't accept the change of schedule from summer to winter, from winter to summer. It lasts only 1 or 2 days, but you have a strike. And now it's amusing also, you can have a strike of the high school students.
Strikes of students. Good
What
idea.
does that mean? They block the entry of the high school. So those, they are minorities. But those who want to continue cannot enter because, and the police don't dare to intervene because, the parents are very anxious about their kids and they are in the school. So if they have an accident or something, wonder those kids, that would be a dramatic issue. So the strike of the students and the high school students are extremely delicate issue. When they start to strike, then the government comes back.
But how about now? Because right now I know the economics in French right now is kind of in a very bad situation, and right now the right wing have control the power. So how about right now people in French still support strike, or they are not so support empathy with the people on strike?
No, I think that people begin to see that it's impossible to continue like that, and you have to make reforms. that I think some reforms have been accepted. For example, one reform which was unbelievable to be considered was the extension of the age of retirement. Some categories of workers were allowed to retire at 55. And then the government succeeded to extend this period a little longer. Because you know, we are facing a very critical issue because the average age of life is increasing. So you will have more and more old people to give them pension from the state. And the number of young people is not increasing, it's even decreasing in certain countries. So you have more load to pay for the old people and less young people working. So we cannot extending the age of retirement. And that idea begins to be accepted. And the reform has been accepted. So progressively, I think, also with the example of the other European countries around us, some reforms are taking place. But the problem now with the crisis, the present crisis, which is quite sudden, now people are really afraid. There has been a lot of firing, a lot of companies who have closed, so people are fired without a job, and now people are extremely anxious and they refuse any reform. So the situation is difficult. And I think it's the same everywhere. I was in the United States 2 weeks ago, and also they have a hard time, in particular with the car industry. In the universities, they have less funding, and people are very anxious too there.
现在请前面那位同学发问。
大家好，我是政治学的学生。Bonsoir, Monsieur Cohen Tanuji. Bonsoir, Monsieur Chen. So my first question is about, because you mentioned, because you saw in the film the contradiction that gave rise to the revolution. So my question is, there seemed to be a contradiction within French society as well, because you mentioned the banlieue, the people in the banlieue, you know, the Maccabi, the Muslim population. They are a very young population and they try to gain access to the mainstream French society. And I think that's also epitomized the relation between France and Africa, especially North Africa. How much do you think the general French population is willing to compromise on, you know, on sort of the wealth they have now in relation to, you know, the people in the banlieue and the African people? And my second question is on renewable energy, because you're a nuclear physicist. So, because I think a moment earlier you were mentioning that you support the use of nuclear energy, the building of nuclear plants. I read an article about renewable energy in Denmark. Apparently, I think 80% of the energy in Denmark and almost 100% on some Danish islands, they are powered by renewable energy. So if we start putting money into building nuclear plants in France or in Germany, wouldn't we be taking away money from, you know, renewable energy research? Shouldn't those money be used, be putting into renewable energy research instead of building nuclear plants, which is not a sustainable way of producing energy? Thanks.
The first question is concerning the young people. The young people position in the crisis. You know, I think one of the main difficulties we have with the immigrant population in the suburbs of the big cities is unemployment. There are a lot of the number of young people in this area is very high. The average age of the population is quite low. So there are a lot of young people, and most of them have not sufficient educational degree to get position. And they are also facing some, I would say, racism. It's difficult for them to get jobs because they are not French native people. So that's a serious problem, because when you have people without work in these suburbs, then it's so easy to gain money by selling drugs and things like that, and some criminality starts to be established. So the urgent problem is to develop education for this area and to find activities, because when young people spend the whole day in the streets, that's very bad. I would say perhaps there is a big difference. We can, my wife Jacqueline has been high school teacher before retiring. And we have a large Vietnamese community in Paris. But that doesn't make any problem, because I think it's a family tradition for Asian population. The family, when they arrive in France, they devote a lot of effort to raise their children and to give them chance for education. So they are very much concerned by the education of the children. And very soon, the children are the first in class. They are very bright, and this population didn't get any problem of assimilation in the French population. Whereas in the African population, there are many more kids, and they pay much less attention to the children, especially for the boys. The boys can do what they want because they are boys. The girls remain at home, they work, and they succeed, but the boys do what they want in the street, and very often they become yes, communist, or Chinese communist. Three wives.
And so
Also, it's not legal.
often one of them is alone with kids because this man leave the family. So it's not easy for this family.
So I think the main problem for the young population, immigrant population, is education. We have to, the French government has to pay attention to this problem, has to develop education center to improve the level of awareness of these young people. So that's the answer to your first question. The second one was?
The second one was about nuclear plants. Yeah. Why put the money on nuclear energy research and not in renewable?
I never said that. No, I think it's very important to invest a lot of money in all sorts of energy, and in the sustainable source of energy, like solar energy. That's very important. But in the immediate future, I don't think that we could provide enough energy with these sources. They are not yet advanced enough. And this is why I am happy to see that my colleague, Stephen Chu, who got the Nobel Prize the same year as me, has been appointed Minister of Energy by Barack Obama, because he is a scientist and is very much concerned by energy problems. I am sure that he will contribute to invest a lot of money in research programs on solar energy, on ocean energy, on wind energy, on biofuel, on biological source of energy. So I think that's a big issue and big challenge to develop all these sources. But in the near future, if you want that big country like India or China develop their energy resources, they will burn a lot of coal, and that would be dramatic for the environment. So the only way of passing this transition time is to use nuclear plants, because nuclear plants are cleaner. Of course, with the waste problem you have to take care of. But that can be taken care of. The mass of waste is much smaller for a nuclear plant than for a chemical or coal plant or something like that. Concerning the wind, of course in Denmark they have a lot of wind. In the north of France also. But when you install in France a wind machine, then the green people are protesting because that spoils the environment. They don't want to have mills. So how can you do? It's really difficult.
那边那位先生。
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation, and I appreciate your insight about the French left and right traditions, particularly when you talk about the diversity is good and its implication for Taiwan political development. Sorry, I'm a faculty member from Political Science Department and Institute of Political Economy. And I think you seem to suggest that the French success seems to have more than 200 years of dialogue, and this kind of model, this kind of semi-presidential system could be transplanted into a Taiwanese system. And I guess we have also witnessed the recent conflict between the French migrant workers and even the I would call it very imprudent measure taken by President Sarkozy, because he thinks that to stimulate French economic development, you need to impose on weekend work. So to illustrate this case, seems to suggest that there exists many divisions between the rich and the poor, and the racial discrimination and religious divisions. So how can we suggest that a French system could be easily or could be without careful consideration to be transplanted into the Taiwanese case, where Taiwan has no clear cut of left and right divisions, as well as we don't really have much about the democratic traditions. So simply by suggesting dialogue could enhance our democracy, it sounds not sufficient for me. Maybe it is a necessary condition, but it is insufficient for us to enhance our democracy or the quality of democracy. Could you share more your insights to elaborate more on how to enhance Taiwanese quality of democracy? Thank you.
For your question, yeah, of course, dialogue is really just a start. Yeah, it's not sufficient. But what I think I must be clear with is that I don't suggest to just take what has worked in France and then put it in Taiwan. I think the important thing is to, we send a lot of students abroad to study in US, in Europe, etc., abroad. But what is important, what can a student do for Taiwan is to do research maybe on a material that are foreign topic, but to have Taiwanese-centered, try to apply, not apply, try to adapt what you learn abroad to the Taiwanese situation. It's not just past and copy and paste. It's really a process of adaptation of what may have worked in a foreign country. And we have to find our own democratic way, So that's why I was talking about dialogue, because if we begin to dialogue about real important Taiwanese political issue, then we will approach what is best for Taiwan, and not just take something that works in France or in the States and then put it in Taiwan, especially when those countries are so different we have a lot of students studying in the States, but the States are completely different country, and we cannot apply directly what works, the method that works for the US in Taiwan. One is a huge country and the other one is a small country. So we have to do our work as a researcher to adapt the theory, to adapt the method to Taiwanese case. Yes, very specific case. Yeah, and even maybe the easiest way is to learn to search for countries that are similar to Taiwan in size, in maybe even culture, if that exists, and then try to change a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Dialogue is not enough, but it will be a good start, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
由于时间的关系，口恩塔诺吉教授与他的夫人将先行离开。让我们掌声谢谢口恩塔诺吉教授的分享。那我们将继续进行交流提问时间。现在是这边的这位先生。
Bonsoir. Monsieur Tian, je m'appelle Chen Pingyang. Pardon pour my bon français. Je voudrais parler deux questions en anglais. Merci. The first question is, I was curious how about for the European country, especially for the France, what would be the purpose and also for the government, how they are dealing and face for the more and more powerful signals are arising. Especially we see right now a lot of conflicts and arguments between the China and also for the France, like the open sale of the antique treasures and also for the Taipei Dalai Lama's issue. And for the second question is, we have two different opinions right now in Taiwan. One is more and more afraid and anxious of the more closely relationship between the Taiwan and China. And the other opinion is seeking for the future opportunity in the China market. And I was wondering and curious, what is your opinion and your suggestions as a new generation of the Taiwanese?
Thank you for your question. So if I understand you well, the first question was about the position of Europe and France toward China's rise. Yeah, are they afraid of China or more positive, more accepting it and trying to adapt? And the second question was more specific to Taiwan. Should we better try to find opportunities in Chinese market or be afraid of its rise? Is that correct? Yes, okay. So the first question, European countries' position toward China's rise. Well, what is interesting is that we are neighbor with China, but in Europe they are doing a lot, maybe more studies about China than us, than Taiwan. I think that I was still at school. They were already discussing about China's peaceful rise, and you see in the movie that France was the first country to recognize PRC, People's Republic of China. So they started a long time ago to study China as a country, and they were always interested in this country. I even think that Napoleon said once that if China, if these dragons awake, then the world will tremble. You know. So they have a long tradition, interest of Chinese culture, etc. But now, how do they position themselves towards this huge rise of China? I think the first is that they are trying to understand it. They are studying it very carefully with their long tradition of rigorous research. They are trying to understand it. And but of course, there is also anxiety. They are also anxious about this rise because they were already anxious when the States rose to become the first superpower in the world, because that also meant that Europe's role was decreasing on the world stage. And now there is another rise, China, new superpower. So sometimes as a Taiwanese, I think they are trying to really adapt, to accept this fact, to understand it, and to adapt. But adaptation is a difficult process, and sometimes my feeling is that in confronting themselves, I mean Europeans, with this new power, European countries are sometimes losing their soul. For example, on human rights issues, on some issues, because of the economic pressure, they have to do some compromise, which I find difficult to accept. For example, for France to say that because they want to sell Airbus, etc., then to keep an eye close about the situation between Taiwan and China, or the human rights situation, or to participate in the Beijing Olympics. Sometimes I feel that European countries are really compromising hard and sometimes losing their soul in these confrontation. That's a bit sad, but that's my feeling. And then, whereas we, as Taiwanese, our position toward China, well, it's a bit the same, Relationship is good. I think relationship, dialogue, exchange between countries, between culture is always good. It makes understanding easier. But at which cost do we want relationship? If the cost of relationship is losing yourself, then in fact there is no relationship because you are no more existing. A relationship exists only when there are two. So if a relationship is based on, I will talk with you, if only you accept all my ideas, you become like me, then there is no real relationship, because then there is only one side in this relationship. So relationship, yes, and exchange, yes, but not at the price of losing ourselves, our own identity. Yeah. Thank you.
接下来是那边那位同学。对。
我是财经所的学生。那很遗憾，那个教授先离开了，因为我刚刚本来也想问那个问题说，影片里面提到，法国是宣扬自由、平等、博爱的一个国家，向全世界宣扬这个理念，但是它是第一个承认中国是合法政府的一个国家。不过，我想比较好奇的是第二个问题。就是美国跟法国之间的关系，在政治方面跟文化方面，因为像之前有关最早出兵伊拉克的时候，就我知道那时候法国并不是一开始就赞成出兵伊拉克。那另外一个是比较好奇的是，像法国人对美国文化也非常的有排斥性，不晓得。詹老师本身在法国的时候，这方面的经验跟感受是如何？谢谢。
OK， 第一个问题the first question was about French proclaiming to represent the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, but why do they why were they the first country to recognize PRC? I think this is not a problem. In fact, there is no opposition between the two because, as I said, they, of course, what they did in recognizing PRC was to approach the reality. Reality was PRC was a country existing and with a lot of people, 1/4, 25% of the population of the world. So what they chose to do was to recognize reality by recognizing PRC's existence. Then to recognize the country doesn't mean to approve its policy and to stand for it. But yeah, of course, sometimes it's difficult to say. But I think that behind this decision of recognizing the PRC is the will to create dialogue, to understand the other. Because if you ignore the reality will still be there, but it will be made worse because you ignore it. Yeah. So what they were trying, I guess, was to install a dialogue and prevent a worsening situation. Yeah. The fact that no dialogue was existing, nobody was knowing what happened in PRC, if they were developing, weapons, etc. Yeah. So I don't think there's an opposition. And the second question, sorry, could you repeat? Okay. Yeah. Well, the relationship between France and the U.S. is a strange one. It's in French it's called attraction and repulsion. You love the other, but at the same time you hate them. Yeah. But I think that's because these two countries are passionate people. They have their own identity which is very strong, which is different. And so sometimes they are attracted by the other countries' specificity. And sometimes because of their differences, they can't bear each other. And in the case of Iraq, yeah, I was still in France at that time. And I remember a phone call between me and my family, which was in Taiwan. And I was reading and absorbing French media point of view every day. And my family in Taiwan, obviously, they were reading Taiwanese media, which are, in general, more supportive of US foreign policy. So it was really a difficult phone call, because we were saying it's impossible. It's really a bad thing to do to start a war in Iraq. And my parents in Taiwan, they were saying, but it's the right thing to do. It's normal. You have to, to support it, etc. That only shows one thing: that media has a real influence, a real power in shaping the mind of the opinion. So really be careful when you, before you accept or you deny a report, an article, because it could be the same reality, and because of the presentation, because of the media, you will have completely different interpretation. Yeah, and I think there's a movie. I always like to talk about this movie. It's called Matrix. Matrix. In this movie, everybody has a pin, and you see a world which is not the reality. Well, if you think about it, the media is the matrix. Everyone is living in a sort of a bubble created by the media. So you have to be careful and try to, to choose and to develop your own independent thinking when faced with media. Yeah, and yeah, French and U.S. differences. It's really hard because French helped the U.S. in its independence, and then the U.S. also helped France to reconquer liberty in the Second World War, the First World War. So they have a long history, these two countries. But I'd like to say that, even though there are some passionate debate, I still believe that there are also a rational part of a rational dialogue between these two countries. Yeah, and that will help. Thank you.
那现场还有朋友有问题吗？那位同学。
Yeah. Since the lady asked the U.S. to French relation, so I ask a little further question because I know French is not so friendly to Bush government in past few years, and right now it is Obama. So does the situation changes or not, and why?
Well, I think the relationship has improved between France and the States. In Europe, they used to say that in the States there is no left wing. All the parties, Democrats and Republicans, are in fact right-wing parties for European. But I saw an article in, I think, the Economist, or I don't remember exactly which media, which was calling Obama to be the first real left-wing president in U.S. History. Yeah, so I think it may be the new situation makes European film closer to the States. But of course, this is also a reaction to the strong dislike of the Europeans toward Bush's government. So, yeah, if you really dislike someone, if his opponent became elected, you will love this new president because he beat the candidate you don't like. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. And but European and the United States will have to spend time to really know each other better. Obama is a new government, and the European will have to discover if he is really closer to the European point of view, or if he is in fact still a pure American politician. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to ask you about Obama. I want to know the government in France. Do he or she want to have a kind relationship with U.S. or not? I want to know that. And could you tell me that?
If France would like to have a better relationship with the Obama government, Obama administration?
Yes.
Yes, of course. The European countries were mad at Bush because of a lot of decisions Bush administration made were perceived like unilateral, in one direction. The state said one thing, decided one thing, and that was the conclusion. And so the fact that Obama has been elected will give hope to all the European governments that a new relationship can be created, and more dialogue and more negotiation between European ally and the superpower, American superpower, can be established. Yeah, so there is a new hope, a strong hope that the dialogue will change with this change of government in the States. Yeah, so I think the answer is yes. They will want to improve relationship and to solve a lot of problems, especially in this time of economic crisis. It's a time to you better stay strong together and face the adversity and try to save the economy together, and not, in our days it's difficult to say I want to be completely different on the international stage and do different policy, even contrary to other countries' policy, because the efficiency won't be good, economic policy, etc.
So you mean have to have a cooperation to help their economic to improve. Yes.
In fact, there was always cooperation, even during Bush governments, between Europe and the States. And now, of course, I think it will be more intense. For example, in Afghanistan, the US are there, the French army is there, and they are also British, I think. Yeah, the cooperation was always there, but sometimes stronger, sometimes weaker. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
那后面那位同学。
Bonsoir. I'm Liao Weixiang from Department of Medicine. After listening about so many political questions, I have a different question about culture, French culture. As I know, people in French, they are proud of their own French culture, and to some extent they are against English or the American Center culture. But now the inevitable trend is that everyone has to speak English, and French people are not accept. So I know that Mr. Zhang, you have lived in France for a long time, and what is the French people, their attitude in this phenomenon? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that even though France has its pride about its culture, but it has also accepted that English is, for the moment, the international language. So, from my experience, I took an MBA in France, and before my graduation, they asked every MBA to have TOEIC, yeah, and to have English as a first foreign language, because it's practical. It's you know, the international business language. But they are also aware that language is not only a tool. Language is also a mean of power of structuring your thinking, your reflection, and in this way, they are strongly promoting French everywhere in the world, because they know that if more people speak French, or if more people speak English, they will think like English or think like French to a certain degree. Yeah, it can have a feedback, a flashback effect on our brain, I think, when we learn a language or another. It's very, very obvious when we compare Chinese and Western language. We develop different part of our brain. So, yeah, so that's why France, even though they accept English as the international business language, they still want that the UN use French, all the international treaty use French when they are signed, etc. When in the Olympics, they want French to be used, etc. Yeah, it's important for them to conserve, to guard this cultural wealth. Yeah. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Claire et je suis étudiante de sciences politiques. I am Claire, and I want to ask you about. You just say that Taiwan we can learn the experience of French their political party, like a left and right. And you also said that we can forget the problem of identity of Taiwan. But I'm wondering if we sign the agreement with China, so if it's under the principle of one China, how can we jump up this problem and just do the economic policy? Thank you.
Thank you. What I meant was not to jump over this question. For me, it's the first question we have to solve. Do we want to continue this experience, Taiwan as a country, or do we want to, to terminate it and to become a part of another country? But for me, it's something we have to decide quite quickly and then move on to solve some other issues, because we have been turning, staying at the same point for quite a long time now. And if you remember, I also said that I was in favor of relationship, but not at the cost of losing our value, our soul. Yeah, I put it in this way, our soul. That means that for me, the most important thing is our identity first. Because, like I said, if you want to create a solid relationship with someone else, another country, you first have to understand yourself very well to be aware of your advantages and your disadvantages. In fact, it's quite simple. It's like a relationship, interpersonal relationship. I will, I would like to make friends with other people who are different with me, but if this person told me that, if you want to become my friends, you have to accept that what I think is right and what you think is, is not the right thing, then we cannot become friends, because I will lose my identity if I accept. So yeah, relationship, but not at any cost, not at the cost of our identity, not at the cost of, in fact, it's a false negotiation if you accept the other side's conclusion before starting the negotiation. It's as simple as that. If you want to negotiate with someone in business, in every domain in life, I have a position, you have a position, then you negotiate to move toward a compromise or the best possible solution. But you cannot say, let's negotiate at any cost, and in order for me to accept you as a negotiator, you have to accept my decision first. You have to accept my conclusion first. If I said that, then there's no negotiation, in fact. It's a false negotiation. No. Yeah. I don't know if I was clear enough. Thank you.
那今晚的沙龙活动将在此结束，感谢詹文硕老师特别从台北南下，也花了相当多的心思与精神来准备这次的活动，带给我们这么有意义又有深度的沙龙。让我们再次掌声感谢詹老师。 那各位朋友离开前，请记得将问卷交给门口的工作人员。谢谢您的参与。